Welcome back with a smiley face. A link of previous episodes is provided into the description of the video. You can also join us on Patreon to listen more unlimited audiobooks like this. You can also visit and shop our ebooks. Luna's Journey. Episode 6. Dimitri's POV. Excuse me. Killian rounded on me, before looking at Lily. Luna Esther waved her hand dismissively. Nonsense. That girl is a known liar, always has been. We treated Lily with the utmost care and respect in our pack. Whatever she told you is a lie. Theo added. Oh really? Is that why she came to my home dehydrated, underweight and with marks covering every inch of her body? Was that care I saw when her cheeks were bruised and her lip was bleeding at our wedding? I nearly shouted. Lily shifted uncomfortably beside me, and Ben threw me a look. I'd attracted the attention of some other guests, looking at us curiously. But I couldn't contain my anger, not with these people. The people who tortured and hurt my mate endlessly. Any marks she had were her own doing. The girl has problems. Yes, I'm sure she willingly took a silver knife to her own back. I spat. What? Killian gasped. Dimitri, stop. Please. Lily whispered. What a load. Silver doesn't fade, and I saw no marks on her back. What lies have you been spreading about us? Esther glared at Lily. I always knew you were ungrateful, but I never imagined you would tarnish my name like this. Theo took a threatening step towards her. I stepped into his path. Back off. Now. I growled. By now, almost everyone was listening to us, watching us. Evelyn pushed her way through the crowd, Philip right behind her. What is going on? Philip demanded. Mom. Dad. What? Evelyn exclaimed at the same time. It's not us, Evelyn. This one dash, she pointed at Lily, has been telling tales about us. We're only defending ourselves. I scoffed loudly. Mom. Evelyn ground out, her jaw clenched. Just leave it. Walk away. Luna Esther grew red in the face. I most certainly will not. I won't stand here and be accused of such horrid things. It's not accusations if it's the truth. Evelyn yelled. People around us gasped at her words. Evelyn. Her mom said her name with horror, Theo said it with an undertone of warning. What? It is true. Lily was abused at our pack. By you, by Dad, and by me. Philip's head swung to his mate, disappointment and shock on his face. We beat her, whipped her, used silver on her. Dad even used a lighter to burn her hair off once. I'm not going to deny anything, not anymore. That wasn't in the file I had. I wondered briefly if Ben had a lighter on him. Unlikely, since he didn't smoke, but I could hope. Evelyn, what are you doing? Esther hissed. I'm telling the truth, Mom. Lily didn't deserve anything we did to her. The best thing you guys ever did for her was letting her go to Blood Moon. You stupid! Theo shouted at his daughter. I gave you everything, treated you like a princess, and this is how you repay me. Before she could respond, he rounded on Lily. And you? You just couldn't keep your mouth shut, could you? No. You had to cry and snivel to your mate like the pathetic little weakling you are. Killian shoved Theo by his shoulders roughly. Says the man who had to beat a little girl. What kind of alpha are you? Lily yanked her hand out my grasp. I finally looked at her, my heart wrenching as I saw her cheeks washed with tears. Lily, don't. She walked away from me, grabbing Evelyn of all people, pulling her out of the room. You see. She claims abuse, but leaves with my daughter. She's clearly lying. Esther continued to try and save herself. Your daughter apologized to Lily before you even got here. Ben snapped. She at least has some remorse, some sort of conscience. That got Philip's attention. She apologized? He asked. She did. I confirmed. Hope sparked in his eyes. Leave. Theo turned his angry glare on me. Get out. And don't ever cross my path again. Because if you do, I promise I will make you endure everything my maid endured by your hands, tenfold. Fear clouded his eyes, before flattening back to anger. He grabbed his mate's hand and started to drag her with him. Theo. Philip called. What? Consider this the end of our alliance. He turned so sharply, he almost threw his Luna. You're married to my daughter. He shouted. And I will stay married to her. But I want nothing to do with you, not anymore. You two are banned from my pack, and our trade agreement ends tonight. Get out of my territory. He snarled. Same goes for me. Alpha Julian stepped forward, his Luna nodding her agreement. I don't want to be associated with an alpha like you. Me either. Or me. A few other alphas shouted out. Theo looked around the same before his eyes landed on me. Unfiltered hatred radiated from him. You'll pay for this. You and that little mate of yours. Leave. Philip thundered. Theo glared me a second more. Then he stormed off, nearly taking the door off in his haste. The room erupted with voices, questions, and general disgust for the Alpha and Luna of Snow Moon. It wasn't the revenge I'd hoped for, but it was enough. Go. Find Lily, make sure she's okay. Ben nudged me. I nodded. Thanks. You too, Killian. He had it coming for a while. I knew there was something off about that guy. What a piece. Killian spit. I left them together, focusing on finding my mate. I was glad Theo finally got called out, but I could feel that Lily was hurting over it. I couldn't even say I was sorry, because I wasn't. Killian was right, Theo had it coming. I exited the building, looking for any sign of Lily or Evelyn. I caught her sweet scent, following it. It led me through the same garden we were in before, further in. I found the girls sitting on a bench together, talking quietly. To make my presence known, I cleared my throat. Can I talk to you? I looked at Lily. I guess. I'll leave. I need to find Philip anyways, explained to him. Her heels clicked on the stones as she walked past me. I took the seat she vacated, adjusting myself so I was facing Lily. I'm sorry. She said it before I'd even opened my mouth. What? No, you didn't do anything wrong. I overreacted. I was just embarrassed that my life was being put out there for everyone to see. I shouldn't have stormed off, I'm sorry. I understand. She narrowed her eyes at me. You're not going to apologize. Nope. I'm sorry that you were upset, and that I didn't get to wring his useless neck. But that's all I'm sorry for. She sighed. What happened? Well, Philip is going to stay with Evelyn, but he banned her parents from Stone Lake. He also cut off their alliance, along with everyone else who was associated with them. Really? It was incredibly satisfying to witness. Now I really wish I'd stayed. She laughed. I tucked her into my side, kissing her hair. Thank you. For being there for me, for having my back. I love you. I'll always be there for you, Lily. I love you too. And you told me the alpha ball was boring. It usually is. This is by far the most fun I've ever had at this thing. She smacked my arm, both of us laughing quietly. She grabbed my hand, playing with my fingers. I have a new ability. She whispered. What? I think. I'm not sure, but it seems like I discover them when I'm emotional. It came out of nowhere. What is it? I'll show you. She sat up, climbing onto my lap. Taking my face in her small hands, she closed her eyes. I waited, curious. Then, an odd humming sounded in my ears. Lily scrunched her eyes tighter, concentrating hard. Suddenly my vision clouded, going black. I couldn't see anything, but I could feel everything. It was mild uncomfortable, like touching a sunburn. I didn't understand what this ability was supposed to be until I felt a wave of emotions. Lily's emotions. They hit me as hard as a truck, more intense than even the mate bond. Instinctively, I knew she could feel everything from me as well. I gasped for breath when my vision cleared, the garden surrounding us once more. Lily sat back, wiping sweat from her forehead. What was that? I asked breathlessly. The best way I can describe it, is now I know Evelyn was telling the truth. I could feel her emotions, her intents. She really is sorry about how she treated me all those years, she really is trying to become better. Just like I know that you really aren't sorry about what happened with Alpha Theo. And I know there's something you're hiding from me. She looked at me expectantly. I'm not hiding anything. Please don't make me do that again. It's exhausting. Fine. I sighed. I got Luke to get information on Snow Moon. About your past. I'm sure there's more than what he found out, but I read enough to get the gist. I didn't want you to know, I figured you'd talk to me about it all when you were ready. You could have just asked me. She frowned. You haven't talked to anyone since you got here about it, not even my sister. I didn't think you'd talk to me, even if I asked. Lily bit her lip. You're right. I wouldn't have. But I will. Someday. No rush, sweetheart. But you know it's not good to keep all of that inside. And I'm here for you. I know. She kissed my cheek lightly. We stood together. I was going to suggest finding Ben and getting a drink, but as I opened my mouth, a piercing scream echoed through the garden. A second later, the smell of blood coated the air around us. Lily's POV, the smell of blood hit me, forcefully. I acted quickly, shoving Dimitri away from me towards the hall. Go. Find Ben and Killian and bring them back. He nodded, running away through the bushes. I took a second to acknowledge that he was actually trusting me this time. Then I was running in the opposite direction, kicking off my heels into the bushes so they wouldn't slow me down. The garden abruptly ended, giving way to a spacious field of grass. The forest lay beyond, dark with looming shadows. I hardly paid attention though, as I followed my nose to the body lying on the ground. Her eyes were wide and staring, but seeing nothing. She once ash-blonde hair was matted with the blood that pooled from her grotesquely slashed neck. Her midsection has also been ripped open, intestines spilling out. My stomach rolled, bringing up everything I'd had to eat or drink. I doubled over, retching violently onto the ground beside the mutilated corpse. You need to calm down. We are not alone. Aya warned me. I wiped my mouth with a shaking hand. My wolf pushed forward as my eyes roamed over the trees, through the shadows. Sure enough, a figure stepped out in my direction. It was a large grey wolf, one I was sure I'd never seen before. He snapped his jaws at me, growling. He is not a rogue. No. Whoever he was, he clearly wanted a fight. I shifted quickly, my clothes a lost cause. I looked down at his grey self, baring my teeth. To my surprise, he let a wolfish grin spread across his face. Then he turned and ran into the forest. Just like before, red flags popped up. Something was wrong. I looked down at the girl in the grass. My heart wrenched as I realized how beautiful she had been. And so young too. Page. Alphas and Lunas and the like were hurrying towards us. Most everyone was stopped, staring at me. Except one man, who ran to the girl's body. Throwing himself onto the ground next to her, he started to sob brokenly. Paige. My daughter, my sweet daughter. I took a couple steps away, wanting to give him space. Who is responsible for this? The alpha barked. His eyes landed on me and narrowed into slits. You. Monster. I whimpered, stung by the word. It was not Lily. Dimitri shouted, but the man did not listen. Shift beast. I instantly did as he asked. His face was torn with grief and rage. Using his alpha speed, he jumped to his feet only to slap me hard across the face. Tears jumped into my eyes. Dimitri was in front of me in less than a second, his hand around the alpha's throat. You dare protect her? Look at my daughter. Look at what she did. Calm down, Richard. It could not have been Lily. She was with me when we heard your daughter scream. Dimitri shoved him away from us. Of course you would defend her. She is your mate. I don't believe you. I got my voice back, leaning around Dimitri to look at Alpha Richard. Alpha, I swear, I didn't. I would never. There was another wolf, a big grey one, he shouted. You lie. I know what you are. He glared at my mate. You should have warned all of us about her. Mother wolves are monsters, untamable. She will kill again, just like tonight. She should be put to death. My heart started to race in my chest. I was horrified that everywhere I looked, people looked back at me with worry and fear. Disgust even. Like I was indeed a monster, out for blood. I didn't. I tried again. I was scared. Would these people turn on me? Even Dimitri couldn't hold them all back, not even with the help of Ben or Killian. They wanted answers, answers I couldn't give. Alpha Richard wanted blood, blood for his lost daughter. Undoubtedly mine. I felt an odd sensation growing inside me, and panic took over. Now was not the time for me to show I had abilities. I couldn't contain it though, the feeling only being fueled by my feelings. Help me. Stop this, please. I can't, Lily. This needs to happen. No. I shouted. My legs gave out, the voices that were shouting around me drowned out. My vision tunneled, going black around the edges. I fought it back with everything I had, but it wasn't enough. My nails dug into the earth, ripping out the grass. My eye caught sight of my arm, beyond shocked that it had a light golden glow around it. Give me control. I demanded. I didn't argue, just let myself be shoved to the back of our mind. I watched as we stood up, walking towards Paige's body. What are you doing? Get away from her. Alpha Richard shouted, but made no move to stop me. Like everyone else, his eyes were wide with fear, afraid of what I would do next. I will reveal what truly happened here. A voice came from my lips. Kneeling beside Paige, Aya placed our hands on her forehead. The glow around us peaked, grew until it was shown. Gasps and shouts came from the crowd. Then, an image slowly materialized in front of us. It was hazy, reminding me of a mirage. Shadowy figures moved around, their voices muffled. And then, as if a veil had been lifted, the image became clear for all to see. Two people stood embracing. One was Paige, and unexpectedly, the other was Connor. Questions danced on my tongue, but I kept them in, watching from inside my mind. "I am so happy you came to see me. I missed you," Paige said. "I as well. You are very important to me, Paige." She smiled, her whole face lighting up. "I think I might be in love with you, Connor. I truly hope we are mates." I almost puked again. She wasn't even 18. They kissed again, heatedly. I watched as Connor's body tensed. Another person entered the vision, a girl I did not know. She was tall, strong-looking. She carried some sort of stick with her. Long metal daggers were attached to the end, hooked at the ends like claws. She walked casually towards the unlikely couple, a smug smile on her face. "I am sorry for this, Paige." "Sorry for what?" Connor pushed her away from him roughly, shifting into his wolf. His grey wolf. I was screaming inside my head, wanting to prevent what I knew was going to happen next. Aya held me back, reminding me it was already done. I watched helplessly as Paige turned to the mystery girl. Her eyes opened wide, a terrified scream leaving her mouth. The scream Dimitri and I had heard. The sound was cut off with a choked gurgle as her throat was slashed and ripped open. Paige fell to the ground, holding her neck. "Www." She looked at Connor, tears running down her face. Her expression was utterly heartbreaking. Unconcerned, Connor used his paw to push her to the ground, and watched as her insides were torn out. He turned away from the girl who had moments before professed her love for him, eyeing the woman who'd murdered her in cold blood. "You know what to do. Get into the trees and wait for Lily." "What?" Connor nodded once, racing off. "That was gruesome." A voice floated through the image to my ears, instantly making my blood boil. Janine appeared, kneeling down beside Paige's body. "It looks good. Disgusting, but good. It's sad you still doubt me." "Whatever. Get lost, before someone sees you. Let me know how everything works out." She walked off, swinging her makeshift weapon over her shoulder. As if she hadn't just brutally murdered someone. And I was the monster? Janine stood, stepping away from Paige's body, her face radiating smugness. "Sorry, girl. I feel kind of bad, having Connor play with you like this. But Dimitri is more important, even more than your life." She walked away, into the forest. Everyone watched as I ran into the vision. They saw Connor's wolf appear, and me shifting. It ended with Alpha Richard kneeling by his daughter, dissolving into the air like smoke. Abruptly, Aya gave me back control, and I slumped over the girl under me, every ounce of energy leaving my body. I felt the sparks as Dimitri lifted me away from her, cradling me into his arms. Nobody moved. Nobody talked. The only distinguishable sound was that of Alpha Richard's sobs. They filled the air, gut-wrenching to hear. Alpha Killian and Ben moved to him, patting his back and trying to console the broken man. I felt wetness land on my cheek. I looked up into my mate's face, my heart twisting when I saw the tears running from his eyes. "This is my fault," he choked out. I opened my mouth to deny it, to tell him it was nobody's fault but Janine's, when her voice broke through the clearing. "You're right. It is." Every head turned to her. She stalked out of the forest, her hand tightly grasped onto something. A noise I'd never made before left my mouth when I realized it was Connor's head. His mouth hung open, his eyes glassy. Blood dripped from his severed neck, staining the grass. Janine tossed the head towards us, letting it come to a stop in front of Ben. "Why?" I asked her. Her laugh filled the emptiness, the sound crawling down my spine. She sounded insane. "Why?" "Because of you." She pointed at me. "You waltzed into my home, took everything away from me. Do you even know how hard I worked to get where I was? How many women I had to get rid of?" She turned her mad eyes on Dmitri. "And you just threw it all away, threw me away, for a slave. I could have ruled Blood Moon by your side. I could have brought our pact to fruition, made it the very best. I would have helped you be the most powerful alpha around. I would have killed for you." She shrieked. "I did kill for you." Dmitri shook his head. "Not for me. You did this for you." Was I the only one who noticed Alpha Richard had stopped crying? He was staring at Janine with more hate and rage I'd ever seen on anyone. His body was shaking, vibrating. I saw his claws extend. "Everything I did was for you. I had to endure sleeping with that useless mutt," she pointed to Connor's head, "for you. I had killed, for you." A terrifying roar echoed around us at her words. A giant brown wolf stood where Alpha Richard had sat, his eyes flat and teeth bared. With no hesitation, he rushed Janine, claws aimed for her face. And she disappeared. Richard's wolf landed on the other side of where she once stood, falling to a heap on the ground. He jumped to his feet, looking around for his prey. But she was gone. In her place, however, now stood a tall, finely dressed man. He had salt and pepper hair, and a sophisticated trimmed goatee. Alpha Richard snarled at him, snapping his jaw. The man waved his hand lazily towards the wolf. I watched with a horrified face as his eyes grew heavy and he slumped to the ground, unconscious. Ben and Killian were at our side in seconds, both taking fighting stances. The man turned to us, eyes owing straight to me. "Gideon," I whispered. Janine's POV, everything had failed. I'd planned this so carefully, even Connor's death. I was happy to be rid of him, finally. The last step in an otherwise perfect plan. But that had ruined everything. And I was going to die for it. I watched as Alpha Richard's wolf longer at me, claws extended. I wasn't scared though, I knew I was going to die as soon Lily revealed the truth. I didn't plan on begging for my life either, I was better than that. And I didn't have regrets. Standing calm, I waited for the burn of claws piercing through my skin, it never came. Instead, I was violently ripped away from the clearing, my vision blacking out. I felt as though my body was being pulled from every direction, stretched and put back together. I landed hard on a cold surface, the wind knocked out of me. Despite having no air, I rolled to the side, vomiting everywhere. What just happened? Was that death? Then why did I feel like St. I apologize. The first time transporting can be harsh on one's system. A velvet, smooth voice drifted to my ears. The sound alone sent shivers down my spine, and heat pooling between my legs. I looked up to find the man I'd ever seen staring down at me. His face had to have been carved by angels, every inch of it perfectly proportioned. His lips were full and red, set in a soft smile. His nose was long, straight, and proud. And his eyes, so dark they were almost black. Greedily eyeing the rest of him, saliva filled my mouth as I took in his white button-down shirt that did nothing to hide how fit he was, and the pants that gave a clear outline. I licked my lips at the sight. Air finally filled my lungs again, and I used it to ask him where I was. You are in the land of witches. How did I get here? I brought you here. Why? Because I need you. My face flushed with heat, my arousal growing stronger. Who are you? I asked. Someone who wants to help you get what you want. What we both want. Your plan to get rid of the mother wolf was all right, but it had many flaws. I straightened my spine, climbing to my feet. I didn't care how gorgeous this creature was, nobody citizened me. What do you know? I hissed at him. I know that I have a better idea. One that will actually work. He was in front of me so fast, I didn't even have time to blink. His hand cupped my cheek, spreading warmth over my face. Who are you? I asked again. My voice sounded weaker, and I cursed myself. You may call Bastion. Bastion. I tested it out on my tongue. I liked it. You want to get rid of Lily too? Why? That, you will learn later, after you have proven your loyalty to me. I'm not sure you will want to, after learning my intentions. I'm with anyone who helps me get rid of that. Even if I want to get rid of her mate as well. I gasped quietly. I couldn't do that. Everything I did would have been for nothing. I can't help you hurt Dimitri. I love him. Bastion scoffed, the softness on his face replaced with dark humor. Come now, don't be so foolish, girl. That man does not want you, does not love you. If I had not taken you away when I did, he would have happily watched you die, glad to be rid of you. Tears sprang to my eyes at his words. The worst part was I knew he was right. Dimitri hadn't even tried to save me, too focused on his pathetic mate. Join me, and I will give you everything. Together, we'll take revenge on those who have wronged you. I will do better than make you a Luna, I will make you a queen. Join me, and rule by my side. I thought of the way Dimitri had shoved me aside. The way he'd played with me, toyed with me. All the times he paraded Lily around in front of me, as if she was the goddess herself. I thought of the way he'd looked at me tonight, with disgust and hatred. The way he was going to let me die. Anger coursed through me, strong and ripe. I would join Bastion, and I would get my revenge. Dimitri and Lily would have no shred of happiness, not after I was done with them. I would destroy them. How should I prove my loyalty? I asked Bastion. He smirked. I have a few ideas. But for now. He pressed his lips against mine, guiding my hand to his pants. I gasped at his size. If this is how he wanted it, proving myself to him would be truly easy. I was more than eager. If you do this, there is no going back. I will kill you if you betray me. He whispered into my ear. I will not betray you. I promised. He ripped my shirt open, leaning down to bite the skin. I moaned. I do not believe you. He muttered against me. How? How can I prove it? I breathed. Let me strip you of your wolf. I jerked in his arms. Bastion grabbed my face, meeting my eyes. You want to get rid of my wolf? I exclaimed. I have no use for your kind. In exchange for your wolf, I will give you magic. I will make you strong. Stronger than you've ever been. You do not need a wolf. Don't. Don't let him do this, he's evil. My wolf shrieked in my head, trying to force her way out. I shoved her to the back of my mind, forcefully. She whimpered, struggling against me. Yes. Do it. I agreed. Bastian searched my eyes, looking for any hint of hesitation. There was none. I was willing to do whatever it took to get my revenge. You are off to a good start. He smiled. Carefully, I unzipped his pants, sliding them down. I sank to my knees, my eyes never lifting from his. I will not betray you. I repeated. But if you double-cross me, I will kill you. Nobody will stand in my way this time. I promised before I took him in my mouth. Dimitri's POV. It had been 1 month since we captured Gideon and brought him to Blood Moon. Though captured might be the wrong word. He'd willingly surrender to us, not putting up an ounce of fight. His new home was the dungeon, obviously. Occasionally, he would leave, transporting himself to his home, wherever that was. The first time he did it, I lost my mind. I do need to change clothes, you know. He'd said. The frustrating part was, I couldn't stop him. I could chain him to the wall, but it wouldn't make a difference. The confusing part though, was that he always came back. He'd be gone for 30 minutes or so, long enough to clean up, and reappear in his cell. I asked myself countless times, why bother? Was this a way to taunt me? To show me he could escape any time he wanted, and I couldn't do about it? The whole situation put me on edge. Today, I along with my beta Ben and Gamma Luke, and Ben's mate Clara were going to interrogate Gideon. Again. Every time I'd tried, he would studiously ignore me, whistling to himself or reading a book he'd brought back with him. I was starting to contemplate violence. I hope you know there is nothing I can do to really help here. He outclasses me in so many ways. Clara said now. I nodded to a few of the gardeners who were hard at work. I don't know what else to try. I replied to her. You think the 3 of us are enough to intimidate him into talking? Luke asked. Maybe. Why doesn't Lily know? I interrupted Ben harshly. I knew what he was going to suggest. Lily herself had offered to do it, but I'd shut down the idea. I didn't want my mate within 100 feet of this guy. He'd already taken 2 pack members, he could easily kidnap Lily too. We entered the dungeon, all 4 of us wrinkling our noses at the smell. A few rogues we'd captured glared at us as we passed, others shrinking away into the corners. This place is disgusting. Clara commented behind me. That's kind of the point. Luke muttered. She shot him a dirty look. Those 2 were always bickering, they reminded me of siblings. I led my group to the very back of the dungeon where Gideon was housed. His cell was medium-sized, but just as dirty and dark as the others. I stopped in front of the bars, glaring inside. He was dressed in a black t-shirt and jeans with white sneakers. His salt and pepper hair was freshly washed and combed, his goatee as well. As usual, he had a book in his hand, flipping the pages lazily. He was definitely the cleanest prisoner here, and it annoyed me off. I tapped on the bars, averting his attention. Hello Alpha. His tone was polite, not at all scared the way it should be. I'm here to question me. I know. I thought it was obvious by now that I won't answer you. Then why do you keep coming back? I growled. He shrugged. I have my reasons. Scanning my handprint of the pad beside his cell, the door creaked open. Gideon looked at me over his book, his eyebrows raised. I stepped into the space, Ben and Luke and Clara behind me. There was barely enough room to fit all 5 of us, especially with how big we wolves were. Gideon closed his book, swinging his legs to face us. This is new. Are you planning to beat the answers out of me? He smirked a little. If that's what it takes. I threatened. You know I could transport myself out of here to safety as soon as you lay a hand on me. Ben stepped forward, shuffling me off to the side. What is even the point of this? He snarled. What's your plan? To live down here forever. Not forever. Just until I get what I want. Which is? Clara asked from behind us. Ah, the witch. I was wondering when we'd meet. Don't talk to her. Ben's eyes grew black. Gideon looked between Ben and the sound of Clara's voice. Honestly, she was basically hidden behind the three of us in the small space. She's your mate, he stated. Neither Ben nor Clara confirmed it, but a slow smile spread over Gideon's face. He seemed genuinely happy that my beta was mated to a witch. She asked you a question. Answer it. Luke snapped. Gideon focused back on me. I want to talk to Lily. Of course he did. No. I deadpanned. Then I have nothing else to say. He leaned back against the wall, picking up his novel. My patience snapped, and I had him a foot off the ground by his throat a second later. Stop playing with me! I shouted. You think I couldn't snap your pathetic neck in an instant? You might have magic, but that won't save you. That won't stop me from ending your useless existence. A hint of anger touched his eyes. I've been lenient with you, Alpha, but you're really starting to test my patience. I've told you what I wanted. No way are you getting near my mate. I spit at him. Fine. But that's the only way I'm going to talk. Why? Ben asked. That's my business. I squeezed my hand tighter. Wrong. I'm her mate, her husband. Anything to do with her has to do with me. Really? Where was that attitude when you were pretending she didn't exist? Except when it benefited you, of course. My wolf, Ajax, pushed forward forcefully. My fist connected with his nose, blood immediately gushing out. Part of me acknowledged that even though he'd stated he could, he didn't leave the cell. He simply crouched on the ground, cursing under his breath as he righted his broken nose. Clenching my fists tightly, I held Ajax back from coming forward fully to do worse. Perhaps that was out of line. Gideon muttered. I want answers. I ground out. Or she is going to give me a truth serum that I will shove down your throat. I jerked my thumb over my shoulder to where Clara was standing. I'll take it willingly. What? Luke asked. Gideon nodded. But only in front of Lily. My teeth snapped together with anger. I told you I'm not negotiating, Alpha. Either I talk to Lily, or you get nothing from me at all. He snapped. Why haven't you just transported yourself to her? If you're so adamant about this. Clara spoke up. Ben looked at her wide-eyed, shaking his head back forth quickly. She was treading into dangerous territory and he knew it. However, Gideon shook his head at her. I won't do that. She won't listen to me if I force her to. I need her to be willing to hear me out. Luke placed a hand on my shoulder. Come on. This is pointless right now. Ben agreed, already moving his mate out of the cell and away from me. Giving Gideon one more hard stare, I followed my friends, slamming his cell shut on my way out. I didn't care if it locked or not, he could leave either way, so what was the point in double-checking? I stalked past the other prisoners, leaving my friends behind. I was beyond angry. When I got outside, I rounded on Clara. Why would you suggest something like that? I roared. Ben stepped closer to her protectively, but Clara just crossed her arms and met my gaze. It wasn't a suggestion, it was a question. And I don't think you need to worry anyways. If he wanted to take Lily, he would have by now. You don't know that. No, I don't. But I think you should let him and Lily talk. Are you insane? I snapped at her. That man down there is powerful as any clan elder. If he was a dark witch, he would have killed you in your sleep already and taken your mate. He must have another reason for being here. Wait. Ben said. Are you saying Gideon is not a dark witch? I don't think so. I've not met any, but I've heard they have a disturbing aura about them. I felt how powerful Gideon is, but I felt no darkness from him. I ran my hands through my hair roughly. There were too many buts and too many ifs here. How could I, in good conscience, allow Lily to put herself in danger without all the facts in place beforehand? He agreed to take the serum, Dimitri. And we have nothing else, no other ideas. He's clearly not going to talk to us. Luke said. And Lily already agreed, a while ago. Clara added. My eyes went to my beta. I agree. He said. Groaning, I kicked a rock in my path, sending it flying into the forest. Pushing past them, I stormed back into the dungeon, growling the whole way to Gideon's cell. Yanking open the cell door, I planted myself in front of him. You will come to the pack house tomorrow at noon. You will take the truth serum, a double dose if I see fit to administer it. You will not speak to Lily alone. And if you try anything at all, I will remove your head faster than you can snap your fingers. Do you understand me? Gideon blinked at me for a few seconds. Why the pack house? He asked. 1. Because I can't fit all the necessary protection for my mate down here. And 2. Because she hates coming down here. He nodded. Understood. I will see you tomorrow. I left, a feeling of unease and regret moving over me. I already knew this was a bad idea. Lily's POV, I need to talk to you. I was sitting on our bed, playing Candy Crush when Dimitri slammed into our room. He looked angry, tense. He'd been this way for the last month, thanks to our new prisoner. Prisoner I'd offered to interrogate, many times, but Dimitri wasn't having it. I understood his point of view, but at the same time, he wasn't getting anywhere with Gideon. He couldn't force him to talk and I didn't have to. I simply had to touch him to know everything we wanted to know. My abilities had grown over the course of these few weeks. I wouldn't say I was close to mastering them, but using them no longer exhausted me to the point of almost fainting. I'd taken to adding extra training during my days, my normal exercise and sparring with Dimitri in the morning and practicing with my gifts in the afternoons or evenings. Clara liked to help out with that. We'd become closer recently, working our ways to becoming friends. I liked Ben's maid a lot, and I enjoyed spending time with her and her daughter, Isabel. I focused my attention back to my mate. He was pacing the room, his jaw ticking. That bastard won't talk to anyone but you. Setting my phone down, I sat up and crossed my legs. By that bastard, I'm assuming you mean Gideon. He nodded. I'm out of ideas. He sighed. So, let me talk to him. I already said I would. I told him to come here tomorrow, at noon. My eyebrows shot up. You did? Yes, and I'm having Ned here as well. And some warriors. And myself, Ben and Luke. Clara too. He ground out her name, making me wonder if they'd had a fight. Okay, slow down. What happened? Why did you change your mind? I pat the spot next to me, inviting him to sit. Ignoring my request, he quickened his steps while he talked. Clara doesn't think Gideon is a dark witch. He agreed to take a truth serum, but only if you're there, only if he can talk to you. And I hate that I agreed to this. He was making me dizzy, watching him pace like that. I slid off the bed, taking his wrist as he turned to make another round. The sparks from our bond zinged through my hand and up my arm, causing my heart to flutter. Dimitri, stop. Breath. You're talking too fast, and not making a lot of sense. Pulling him to the bed, I pushed him down and climbed into his lap. His face pressed against my neck, over the spot where his mark lay, inhaling deeply. I rubbed his back in soothing circles. After a few minutes I felt his muscles release and relax. Better? I asked him. Much. I'm sorry. I'm just so annoyed. I couldn't tell. I chuckled. Now, start over for me. He told me everything that transpired with Gideon, explaining why Clara didn't believe he was a dark witch, and that he agreed to take the truth serum if he could talk to me. Admittedly, I agreed with Clara. Gideon had already proven he could come and go as he pleases. He could have taken me any time he wished. But just because he might not be a dark witch, doesn't mean he's not dangerous. He's already taken 2 of our people, that's why I'm having Ned and the warriors here tomorrow as well. He finished. I don't think that's necessary. I replied. Of course it is. I won't let you near him without protection. That's why I have you. And Luke and Ben and Clara. I'd feel better having more of my men there. Dimitri, Connor plotted against us for who knows how long with Janine. And he was one of your warriors. I think it's safe to say that we don't know who we can trust right now. I was right, and he knew it. I could see it in his eyes. Since we found out Janine was even more psychotic than we thought, murdering an innocent girl in cold blood with the help of Connor, I'd kept to myself and the people I knew beyond a doubt I could trust. I hadn't gone out of my way to make new friends for that reason, though I still attended to my Luna duties. It was hard for me, and I knew for Dimitri too, having the knowledge that people in our pack, our home, might be conspiring to kill us. The few people that knew exactly what had gone on at the Alpha Ball, and everything since were my friends and mates Hazel and Clint, Dimitri's sister Thera, and of course Ben and Luke and Clara. Of course, all the Alphas and Lunas who were at the ball knew, and our friend Alpha Killian. Rumors traveled like wildfire, but so far, most of the pack only speculated as to what really happened. The hard truth that everyone knew though, was that I was a mother wolf. That information spread faster than wildfire, branching out and taking life. I'd known it would happen, but it still hurt a bit that pack members looked at me differently now. They were wary, careful. They acknowledged me as their Luna, but I think it was more out of fear than respect now. I knew my secret couldn't stay hidden forever, but I had been hoping to lessen the blow when it came out. Preferably not attached to the fact that I had been assumed to have killed Alpha Richard's daughter because I was supposed to be a wild. Nothing I could do about it now though. Lily. Hey? Sorry, I zoned out. Dimitri brushed his fingers across my cheek. You don't have to do this. I do, actually. We need answers. You don't want me to do it, but it's need to happen. He sighed. If he hurts you, then you have my full permission to go big bad alpha wolf on him. I kissed his nose. I don't need your permission for that, darling. Dimitri wrapped his arms around my waist, flipping me onto the bed so I was under him. He kissed me lovingly, leaving me breathless. Nothing is going to happen. I trust you to have my back, I said quietly. Always, he promised. We kissed again, the tension in his body quickly turning into lust. I was naked before I knew it, my mate's head between my legs. I let out a content sigh as he pleasured me. I have studying to do, you know, I said. Don't care. His tongue flicked out and I bit back a moan. Dmitri, I have my first exam in a week, I gasped. Really don't care? Dmitri. I'd meant to sound firm, but it came out as more of a plea. He hummed against me, adding extra pleasure with his fingers. It was a wonder I ever got anything done around here with his seemingly insatiable need for me. Finally, I gave in, giving myself to the feelings only he could ignite within me. We exhausted ourselves together, falling asleep in each other's arms. I woke some time later, glancing at the clock on the bedside table. 4 in the morning? Goddess! Way too early. Rolling over, I snuggled into Dmitri's back. But sleep didn't come, in fact, I was oddly alert. Had Dmitri turned up the heat? I kicked off the blankets, letting the breeze from the open windows cool my body. A minute later though, I was too cold. Frustrated, I sat up. The minute I moved, my stomach rolled violently. Hand covering my mouth, I was off the bed and running to the bathroom as fast as my feet would carry me. Attempting to hold my hair back, I let out my dinner into the toilet, groaning. Lily. Dmitri entered the bathroom, coming to kneel beside me. Are you okay, sweetheart? He put his hand to my forehead as I flushed the toilet. I'm fine, now. I don't know what that was. My voice was raspy. Can you get me some water, please? He brought back a large glass and I downed it. Maybe I should get Thera up here, Dmitri offered. No, don't wake her. I'm fine, really. Lily, you just puked. I feel better now. Don't bother your sister, I'm sure it was just something I ate. He looked doubtful, with good reason. Greta had made us dinner, and nobody ever got sick off her cooking. It was next level work. Let's just go back to bed. I'm tired. He helped me stand and watched me like a hawk all the way to bed. Pulling the covers over us, Dmitri hugged me close. I fell asleep soon after, wondering why I didn't feel uncomfortable now. I assumed getting sick must have drained me. When we woke a few hours later, I still felt fine. I made us breakfast, scrambled eggs, French toast, hash browns, muffins and bacon. Lots of bacon. I filled my plate mostly with meat, Dmitri eyeing me as I poured syrup over everything. What's gotten into you? He asked. I'm hungry. You never put syrup on eggs. I shrugged, taking a bite. He shook his head at me. You're feeling better then, I take it. I told you, it was probably weird I ate. I'm fine. Stop worrying. It's my job to worry about you. One I take very seriously. He leaned over to kiss me. I finished my breakfast, my eyes drooping tiredly. Not bothering to take my dishes to the sink, I crawled back into bed. We have training, Dmitri said. I was so tired, I simply waved him off. Not today. He paused. Okay. He kissed my forehead gently. I'll wake you up in a bit. He might have said something else, but I was already asleep. Lily's POV. Dmitri woke me up at 10:30. I was groggy, and starving. I asked him to make me a sandwich with a side of potato salad while I showered. The look he gave me was justified. Wolves ate more than humans in general, but this appetite was unusual for me. Not to mention the fatigue. Perhaps my mate was right, and I should visit Thera. I didn't feel sick, but I didn't feel like myself either. I made you a turkey bacon club. Dimitri mind-linked me. I smiled as I rinsed my hair. Perfect. Thank you. Turning off the water, I dried myself hastily, eager to get to the food awaiting me. I haphazardly wrapped my hair and strode out of the washroom completely naked. Dimitri's eyes widened as I sat down and grabbed the sandwich, taking a huge bite. This might be the hottest thing you've ever done. He gazed at me. Don't even think about it. I'm way too hungry for S***X. He smirked, taking my words the wrong way. I rolled my eyes while I continued to devour my meal. I'm going to find the guys. Meet you downstairs. He pecked my cheek. The little touch sent heat pooling in my stomach. My arousal drifted between us and clearly showed on my face. You know, maybe I changed my mind. I bit my lip. Best thing I've heard all morning. I jumped at him, catching him by surprise. The towel unwrapped from my still wet hair, falling to the ground. My lips met his in a rough heated kiss, which he returned happily. Part of me wondered if I was going into heat. I wasn't usually this horny. But, no, I just had my heat, hadn't I? I shouldn't have another one for 6 months. Was it different for me, being a mother wolf? I stopped pondering when Dimitri's hand slipped between my legs. My head fell back with a loud moan. By the time I was completely satisfied, it was 15 minutes until 12. I left my mate breathing hard on the bed to get dressed. I opted for something I could move easily in case this meeting went badly. Dimitri joined me in the closet to get new clothes. His were a lost cause, shredded in my need to have his skin on mine. Scraps of the remnants were scattered across the bed and floor. I wasn't even sorry. Gideon just arrived. Ben is escorting him inside. Where are we meeting? I asked as I tugged my shirt on. The common room. I've made it clear nobody is allowed in there today. I nodded. Good. Let's go. I need pants, Lily. But you look so much better without them. I think the guys would disagree with you. I actually pouted when he grabbed a pair of black jeans. Goddess, I needed to get myself under control. Later. He promised. My mood instantly brightened. I'm holding you to that. Taking my hand, we went together to the common room. I eyed the artwork that decorated the walls in the pack house. I'd been here for a while now, and still I couldn't get used to the beauty of this place. Not just the pack house, but the pack itself. I was lucky to be able to call Blood Moon my home. Dimitri opened the door for me, allowing me walk in first. My eyes immediately sought out Gideon, standing near one of the many bookshelves. He seemed quite impressed at the collection. Ben stood near him, watching him closely. Clara was sitting on one of the plush, grey sectionals, and Luke was leaning against the red brick fireplace set on the far wall. To my surprise, others were here too. Alpha Killian looked up as we entered, a man I didn't know standing next to him. He nodded a greeting at us. Even Hazel and Clint were here, sitting at a small table tucked into the corner. Thanks for coming. Dimitri said. You said be here at noon. Gideon replied. I wasn't talking to you. I was talking to him. He gestured to his alpha friend. Gideon shrugged, continuing to scan the books. Why are you all here? I asked. You didn't want the warriors here, but I still wanted extra protection. He glared across the room. We trust everyone here, without a doubt. Right. Right. With one obvious exception. Killian said. It's nice to see you again, Alpha. I smiled. You can call me Killian Lily. No titles amongst friends. All right. And this is? I nodded to the man next to him. This is my beta, Julian. Pleased to meet you, Luna. Julian offered his hand. I met him halfway, and we shook. You as well. I cast my eyes to the side, having the sensation of being watched. Gideon was staring at me, a strange look on his face. It almost looked like pride. It's amazing how well you can ignore the elephant in the room. Killian commented. And with that being said, let's get on with this. Dmitri announced. He hadn't left my side since entered the room. I looked at Gideon for the first time properly. Dmitri had been right, he was freshly clothed, cleaned, and shaven. It sparked annoyance in me. He was a prisoner, for the time being. He should act like one. After all, he had surrendered to us. I was told you would willingly take a truth serum. I didn't phrase it as a question. Gideon nodded. I will. Under the condition we met your condition. You get to talk to Lily, you don't get anything else. Dmitri snarled. As I was saying, he acted as if my mate hadn't spoken, stirring anger in the air, under the condition that only you, Luna, ask the questions. Why? I asked. Because only you will ask the right ones. He wasn't making any sense, but I didn't push it. I looked at the faces of my friends, and my mate. Anybody have a problem with that? No. Nope. No. Dmitri shook his head mutely. Okay. Clara. She stood, reaching into her pocket and producing a small, thin vial with gold liquid. We'd had the opportunity to test this batch, on Luke. Clara hadn't made a truth serum since before Isabel was born, she wanted to make sure she got it right. I'd learned many interesting things about my friend, mostly due to Ben and Dmitri asking him embarrassing questions. He could be sure that I would remember everything, and he would never live it down. Ben shadowed his mate as she walked to Gideon, stopping 2 feet away. She tossed him the vial, crossing her arms. I was surprised when he popped open the lid and downed it one go. Part of me honestly expected him to screw us over, to take the potion and vanish. It's not like it wouldn't come in handy in the future, the devil himself would spill his darkest and most intimate secrets. Gideon shuddered slightly, his pupils dilating. Clara had told us it could take up to 3 minutes for it to take effect, so I counted in my head. When I got to 3 minutes exactly, I asked my first question. What is your name? Gideon Abraham Whitethorn. His last name rang a dim bell, for goddess knows what reason. Whitethorn was not a name I'd ever known. Are you a dark witch? No. Told you. I heard Clara mutter to Ben. If you're not a dark witch, why did you take James and Janine? I only took James. I did not take Janine, though I meant to. My forehead creased in confusion. Where is James? Dead. My mouth dropped open. That was the last thing I expected to hear. But Margie told me that you'd offered him a deal, something about getting revenge on Dmitri and I? That the Alpha and Luna would pay. I did offer him revenge, but it was only a pretense. I am powerful, but because I do not practice the dark arts, James had to agree to be transported to me. You don't want to hurt us? Me? Or Dmitri? No. Then why did you kill James? I demanded. I couldn't honestly say I was sad over his death, but coming from a man who just claimed he had no ill will towards us, it was a little strange. Because he hurt you? Gideon said nonchalantly. I was taken aback by his confession. Why does that matter to you? You don't even know me. I do know you. I've always known you, Lily. I've been keeping watch over you your whole life. My heart started to race. Suddenly, I wanted to leave the room, to be done with this. Yet, despite my inner turmoil, my mouth opened and asked the question I wasn't sure I wanted the answer to. But it seemed inevitable, if not here, now, I would find out some other way. Unavoidable. Why? Gideon's eyes looked shinier, as if he was fighting back tears. But he answered in a calm, confident tone. How could I not watch over my own daughter? Lily's POV. Excuse me. I gasped. I could feel the shock in the air, the growing tension. The words were out there now, almost visible, yet unbelievable. You are my daughter. Gideon repeated sincerely. My breath was coming hard, my mind wasn't processing his words. Finally, it clicked and I exploded. I can't be your daughter. I'm a werewolf. It was always a 50-50 chance of which way you would turn out. You're lying. I shouted. Sweetheart, he's not. He can't. Dimitri reminded me. Angrily, I turned on my mate. His expression radiated worry. The serum must have worn off. I said. It hasn't. It won't for at least another hour. Clara spoke quietly. Then he is tricking us. He tampered with it. I continued to grasp at illogical theories, unwilling to accept that this was my fate. My friends stared at me silently, not wanting to push me further. I can show you proof. Gideon suddenly said. I don't want your proof. I screamed at him. He flinched, obviously hurt by my words. I didn't give AFK. Without another word, I turned and left the room, slamming the door behind me. It had to be a trick, he'd outsmarted us somehow. He was powerful, more powerful than Clara. He had to have done something to either himself or the serum. He was lying, toying with us. With me. He's not. I whispered in my mind. He has to be. You want him to be lying, Lily, because that's easier than accepting the truth. Go back, let him show us whatever proof he has. I can't. I just can't. Why? I ran my hands through my hair, pulling it in frustration. Because if it is true, that means I not only have a father, but that he abandoned me as well. And it means I have a mother who did the same. I don't want to hear how they didn't want me. I understand, Lily. But we need to do this. I can feel that. You can't avoid this and sweep it under the carpet like you're doing with everything else. Life has many challenges, but I'm here with you to face them together. I hated that she was right. I also hated that a big part of wanted to see his proof. I wanted to know just as much as I didn't. I practiced calming my breathing, making sure I was relatively calm, before I opened the door and strode back inside. Every pair of eyes were on me, but I only had eyes for the man claiming to be my dad. Show me. I demanded. My tone was harsh, hopefully covering up how scared I was right now. Lily, I held my hand up, silencing Dimitri. It was disrespectful, for sure. But if I didn't do this now, in this mindset, I would leave again and never come back. Gideon nodded. I will need something from home. He said. Make it quick. I snapped. He snapped his fingers, vanishing. I blinked and he was back. In his hands was a thick book, with a worn black cover and yellowing pages. He flipped halfway through before setting it on one of the tables. Curiosity guiding me, I inched closer to peek. The writing was not English. It was a series of strokes and dots and symbols I'd never seen before. It is the language of witches, Gideon explained. I glanced at Clara, who peered over my shoulder, nodding to confirm what he said. Gideon placed his hand on the page and began to mumble under his breath. I caught some of it, though it made no sense to me. The words started to glow under his palm, brighter and brighter until they were a shining white gold light. Abruptly, the scene around us changed. The common room disappeared, leaving us standing in a lush meadow. A gentle breeze blew through the grass, but I couldn't feel it on my skin. I had a moment of déjà vu. This place oddly reminded me of my one meeting with the moon goddess. What? Where are we? I looked around to my friends. Everyone aside from Clara and Gideon and myself were looking around in shock and amazement. Luke reached out trying to touch the now non-existent fireplace, jumping back when he couldn't find it. This is way too freaky. He gulped. Shah. Watch. Gideon said. He was looking out over the meadow expectantly. I followed his gaze, my heart thumping in my chest. A soft giggle floated towards us before a woman and a man appeared, chasing each other through the grass. As they came closer, smiling and laughing, I felt tears form in my eyes. The man was Gideon, younger, livelier. His hair was pure black, no hint of grey. The goatee was missing, his face clean and happy. The woman was beautiful. Long red hair that reached her waist, pale flawless skin. Her lips were full and redder than roses. A small sound left my mouth as she turned, her eyes sweeping over us, through us. They were green, a duller shade than mine, by far, but I knew it. This was my mother. The young Gideon caught her around the waist, quickly pulling her in for a kiss. The love surrounding them was raw, pure. It was so obvious, anybody could see it. I should go. The woman said. No, not yet. I hardly ever get to see you, Rose. Rose? My mother's name was Rose? Short for Rosalie. Present-day Gideon muttered to me. He was tense as he watched the scene with us. I know. Rose caressed young Gideon's face. But you know we cannot risk getting caught. You know what will happen. I hate this. I do too. I wish I'd been born a witch. Or you a wolf. Life is so unfair. I could know. You mustn't, Gideon. I could not bear to see you shrouded in darkness. I love you too much. He looked heartbroken, utterly lost. I heard Clara gasp behind me. You were going to? She whispered. Yes. The younger version of my parents kissed again and Gideon snapped his fingers. The scene dissolved, changed. I gave him a sharp look. Did you want to watch yourself being conceived? He asked. Oh. No thanks. I shook my head, looking away. We were in the same meadow, but it was now night. A beautiful full moon hung in the sky, stars dancing around it. It cast a light glow over the trees, the grass, and the flowers. Rose sat on the ground, crying silently. My heart lurched, and I took a hesitant step towards her. A figure stepped through me, literally right through me, making my body wave and shimmer. I jumped back with a yelp. My love, why are you crying? What's wrong? Young Gideon pulled my mother into his arms, stroking her hair. I have ruined everything. She sobbed. You could never ruin anything. You are too perfect for that. Tell me what has upset you like this. I. She hid her face in her hands. I am pregnant. She cried. I winced. Pain ran through my chest as I watched the woman who carried me in her womb cry her heart out. She'd said she'd ruined everything, because of me? She hated me that much already? Pregnant. Young Gideon breathed. Rose nodded. I am sorry, Gideon. So sorry. Don't be. His face was transfixed with a warm bright smile. His face was full of joy. Rose, this hasn't ruined anything. It's only made it better. How can you say that? She hissed. The knife drove itself deeper into my heart. My father will kill you, he will kill this child. Wait, what? I won't let him. Let's go, Rose, let's run away. We will have our baby, we will love them. Together. You would do that for me? For us? You would become a rogue. I would do anything for you. And for our child. My mother stood, wiping her tears. Yes. I will go with you. I love you, Gideon. She jumped into his arms, embracing him. A snap of fingers and the scene changed again. A large gate loomed over us, attached to a pale stone wall. Beyond, I could see a magnificent mansion with white siding and large windows. Rose bushes were planted up front, being tended to by various people. You are making a mistake, Rosalie. A loud, booming voice resonated over my ears. I finally noticed my mother was walking down the stone path, leading away from the mansion. Following behind her was a large man in an expensive-looking suit. He had wavy brown hair and cold light blue eyes. He grabbed Rose by the shoulder, turning her to face him. You can't do this. You're throwing your life away, and for what? A witch. You are not thinking straight, girl. I am not throwing anything away, father. I gasped. This cold, angry man was my grandfather? I love Gideon, and he loves me. This is the most sure thing I have ever done, or will ever do. Rose continued. Are you really that dumb? He's bewitched you, Rosalie. She smiled softly. Yes, he has. There is nothing you can do, father. I won't reject my mate, not even for you. Two separate gasps sounded behind me. I knew it was Ben and Clara. Why, your mate? Yes. Gideon is my fated mate. I do not question the goddess's choices. We are meant to be together, and we will be. If you do this, you can never come back here. I won't allow it. My grandfather thundered. My mother straightened her spine, lifting her chin. I, Rosalie Lillian Green, hereby cut all ties to the Crescent Moon Pack. I accept. My grandfather spit. They both winced, my mother's hand clutching her chest. After a minute, she straightened again and turned away from him. Goodbye, father. You will regret this, Rosalie. You and that witch. I'll make you regret it. She pushed the gate open, ignoring the threats behind her. I thought she might look sad, or even hesitant. But my mother walked proudly away from her pack, officially a rogue, caressing her belly lightly. Dimitri's POV. I was stunned. Our group stood together, watching everything Gideon had to show us. My eyes were constantly going to my mate's face, analyzing the play of emotions there. This was hurting her, and I wanted to stop it. But I also knew that she needed this, needed to see it. I would help her through the aftermath, as best I could. The image changed again, and honestly, it was starting to make me dizzy. This entire time, I'd been feeling odd, the air felt sticky on my skin, too thick. I noticed a while ago that the others were visibly uncomfortable as well, apart from Clara, Gideon, and Lily. The witches made sense, but Lily was a wolf like me. I figured it must be because she was half witch. That doesn't change anything, Ajax said. No, it doesn't. I'd love her if she were part chicken. A scream interrupted us, and I instantly pulled my mate closer, looking around. We were in a house, a small house. The younger version of Gideon paced in front of a room, worry and anxiousness set in his features. He looked more like the man standing in front of me now, a short black beard had grown on his face, and he looked more mature. Another scream echoed through the door and he cringed. A few minutes later, the cry of a baby was heard. Warmth spread through my chest. Lily had just been born. A man stepped through the door, old with half-moon glasses. He looked drained, but he wore a big smile. Congratulations, Gideon. You have a beautiful, healthy baby girl. Daughter. Yes, sir. She was a big one too, 9 pounds, 3 ounces. How is Rose? Tired, but relieved. The man chuckled. Give my wife a few minutes to clean her up, then you can go see your family. My family? Young Gideon grinned. Thank you so much, Peter. I don't know how I can ever repay you for everything you've done for us. All I require is you bring that little girl over to see her papa. That is payment enough. And her nana. A short, blonde woman exited the room, her front stained with blood and some form of goop. I internally cringed, like the typical man I was. Of course. Once Rose is feeling up to it, we will come by. She is feeding the little one now. You can go in. I gave the men around a hard stare. Quickly, they all averted their eyes. It may have been a memory, but I was still pretty certain Lily, and Gideon for that matter, did not want this many people seeing that. Young Gideon pushed the door open, and we followed him into a bedroom. I looked at the painting on the wall, Clara looked at the ceiling, and the rest gazed at their shoes. The sound of baby Lily feeding was the only sound in the room. Rose. Young Gideon choked back tears. She's beautiful. Perfect. I know. Just wait, she is even more special than we thought. I heard a tiny burp and a few seconds later Lily nudged me. Rose had swaddled her, tucking her into her arm. Curiously, I moved a bit closer. Lily opened her eyes, the color shining brightly against her pink skin. She looked curiously at her father before letting out a huge yawn and falling asleep instantaneously. What? What? Young Gideon seemed to be at a loss for words. I met the moon goddess Gideon. Rose said. What? He repeated. Tears left her eyes silently as she gazed at her baby. Our daughter is special. She is chosen by Celeste herself to do great things. I am sorry, I cannot explain more to you. I trust you. Rose smiled at him. Can I? You have to ask? She is your daughter, silly. Young Gideon gazed at the sleeping infant in his arms. What should we call her? I was thinking Lillian. Lily. Your mother. She would have loved her. She would have accepted her, and us. I know it. I love it. My little Lily. He kissed her nose. I love you so much, my little girl. Gideon snapped his fingers silently. I briefly wondered if he relived these memories often, or if this was the first time. Lily. Where are you? We were in a forest, the sun shining high in the sky. Rose was wandering through the trees, Gideon walking behind her. They both looked older now. Lily, come on out. Your mom is worrying. Gideon called. I heard a giggle behind me. I stepped out of the way as a whirlwind of red hair ran past me, jumping into her mother's arms. There you are. Rose nuzzled her daughter's neck, tickling her. I smiled as my mate's child self erupted into fits of laughter. Mama, stop. She was set on her feet and Gideon took her hand. Lily, you know you shouldn't run off. Sorry Daddy. You worry us when you disappear. Stay with us from now on, okay? Okay Daddy. I love you. I love you too Pumpkin. Gideon snapped his fingers, harshly and turned away. I jumped to the side as fire erupted beside me, almost knocking over Clara. It couldn't hurt me, of course, but it was so different from the happy scene a few seconds ago. I watched in horror as the forest around us burned and smoldered. Smoke filled the air, thick and strong. Squirrels and rabbits ran for their lives through the thicket, birds screaming in the trees. Take her Gideon. I turned to see Rose shoving her daughter into Gideon's arms. Rose, please. Don't do this. Mama, stay with me. Lily cried. I have to, Gideon. I will lead them away, and then I will find you. Take her, now. Not giving him a chance to refuse again, she ran away, shifting into a beautiful white wolf with black boots. Mama! Lily jumped from her father's arms, racing afar her mother. My heart was hurting at the scene. Lily, no. Come with me, come on. We have to go. Mommy will come back. He scooped her up and ran past our group, out of sight. We were left standing in the middle of a burning forest. I was confused why Gideon didn't take us elsewhere until a howl pierced through the air. It grated against my nerves, cut into my heart. The sound abruptly cut off, followed by a heavy silence. Clara was crying silently beside me, wrapped under one of Ben's arms. Lily stood in front of me, a look of denial on her face. I brought her back against me, rubbing her shoulders. There was nothing I could say, nothing I could do. Not even the mate bond could ease the pain of knowing her mother was gone. Gideon hadn't watched the vision with us, still turned away, and looking into the smoky bush. His shoulders moved, indicating he too was crying. Another snap, and we were transported once more. I looked around, recognition washing over me. We stood on the border of Snow Moon. Lily sat on the ground under a tree, crying. Gideon kneeled in front of her, smoothing her hair. I want Mommy. She sniffled. I know Pumpkin. I know. It's going to be okay. You said she would come back. He didn't answer her. Instead, he hugged her close, kissing her hair. I love you so much Lily. And Mom does too. I'm so sorry. Sorry for what? His hand started to glow with a light blue hue. He placed it on her small head, mumbling under his breath. Tears streamed down his face and he choked on the words. Finally, he released her. The child who stared at him now had a blank face. She clearly didn't know who he was. Your name is Lily. You are 5 years old. Say it. My name is Lily, I am 5 years old. You are a werewolf. I am a werewolf. You. Young Gideon choked on a sob. You are an orphan. He managed. I am an orphan. Yes. Say it Lily. I am an orphan. Go into this pack. They will look after you until I find you again. He hugged her one more time. I love you, so much. Now go. Go. He pushed her towards the border lightly. She looked back at him once before running through the forest. Her father watched her, fists clenched, heart on his sleeve. Screaming into the night air, he vanished. The trees started to spin, colors mixing together. I shut my eyes, and when I opened them, we were back in the packhouse common room. Clara stepped away from Ben, wiping her eyes. Luke sat heavily on the sectional, putting his head in his hands. Killian and his beta just stared, absorbing everything they'd witnessed. Hazel was curled up with Clint, and Gideon slammed his old black book shut. I searched my mind, trying to come up with anything to say to Lily. I came up blank. What could I possibly say to her? You. Dimitri's POV. Lily sprang from my grasp, lunging at Gideon. His eyes widened before her fist connected with his jaw. He fell to the floor, staring at her in surprise. How could you do that? How could you leave me there, with those people? She screamed. Lily, do you know what they did to me? Do you know what I went through because of you? She started to sob. You abandoned me into the hands of the devil, and you just left. Why? Why didn't you take me with you? It was too dangerous. I couldn't lose you too. He shouted. You're lying. You said you've watched over me all my life? So you just let them beat me, whip me, cut me with silver? You stood by when they burned me, tortured me, broke me from the inside out. And you didn't do anything. I couldn't. I's voice mixed with Lilith's. You couldn't handle the death of your mate, so you dumped me at the first pack you found. And you took my memories. You're not my father. I want nothing to do with you. I hate you. She screamed. Gideon cringed at her words forcefully, like she'd given him another blow. Chest heaving, my mate ran from the room. Her emotions were hitting me like a train. Despair, grief, heartache, and blinding rage. I believed in that moment, she truly did hate Gideon. He sat on the floor, looking utterly miserable. Why did you do it? Killian asked before I could. I had to find her mother. But Rose. We all saw. Clara said. Gideon shook his head. She's not dead. What? Our voices echoed together. He looked Clara in the eye. You should have figured that out. I still have my magic. The bond never broke. Her eyes widened. So, wait. What happened to her? Where is she? I don't know. Her father, I started, but he shook his head again. He died shortly after Rose left. His beta took over as Alpha, a nice man. They never came looking for us. Then who attacked you? Who was Rose leading off? Ben asked. My brother. What? We all repeated. Gideon sighed. It's a long story. One I was hoping to explain to Lily. He looked towards the door sadly. But I always knew she would probably hate me for what I did. I will talk to her. Hazel said softly. I don't think there's any point. She has every reason to be angry. You did what you thought was right. You were a father trying to protect his daughter. I'd do the same for my child, in that situation. She patted her stomach, and my jaw dropped. You're pregnant? I gasped. We just found out. She smiled at Clint. I'll go find Lily. I need to lie down anyways. She kissed her mate quickly before leaving to search for mine. Congrats. I nodded to Clint. Thanks, Alpha. He beamed. Okay, this is great and good for you, but I'm still really needing answers. Clara said. Same. Luke said. Sorry to take away your thunder, dude, but I agree. Ben said. No worries. I'm sitting on the edge of my seat too. We all looked at Gideon, who sighed again. You've told them about the dark arts? He asked Clara. To a point. Okay. Well, my brother is a rogue, like me, but for very different reasons. He's always had a fascination with dark witches. I tried to steer him away from it, down the right path. But he is greedy, selfish. I knew he'd gone too far when I caught him raping a girl from our clan. He was going to use the blood from her virginity for a ritual. He cringed, and the rest of us did too. I reported him to the elders. He was banished, exiled. I was hurt, but I thought I was doing the right thing. You did. Clara said. You saw as clearly as everyone else what happened to my family. Bastian sought me out, wanting to take his revenge. Hold on. Your brother is Bastian? Bastian Whitethorn. In name only, but yes. You know him. Ben turned to his mate. Everyone knows him. Among witches anyways. He has decimated villages, killed hundreds of innocent people. She gulped, her face pale. Yes, he's made quite a name for himself. Gideon said sarcastically. How does someone that dangerous go unnoticed by us? Luke wondered aloud. How often do you wolves involve yourself in other species' issues? Okay, true point. Anyways, Bastian had been keeping an eye on me. He found out that Lily was special, though none of us, except maybe Rose, knew just how special she was. The night we were attacked, it was because he wanted Lily. He set our house on fire while we slept. I held him off as long as I could while Rose got Lily outside. He reminded me of his promise for revenge, saying he was going to use Lily to make him the most powerful witch in existence. His fists clenched tightly. Instead, he got my mate, and I was forced to hide Lily in a random pack I came across. How do you know he still has her? I asked. Bastian is a cruel. I've lived all this time, all these years, feeling Rose's emotions. I feel when he hits her. I feel when he touches her. I have tried to follow the bond, but I always come to a dead end. It's as if she's here with me, but out of my reach. He slammed his fist on the ground. My stomach rolled. I couldn't even imagine going through that, let alone for years. How had he not gone insane yet? I shared a look with Killian, knowing we were thinking the same thing. Any wolf would have gone feral by now. Question: why didn't you go back for Lily? When she was older? Luke asked Gideon. I wanted to. So badly. She is right, I saw everything those wretched people did to her. If I had known what they were like beforehand, I never would have left her there. I would have found another pack. But I knew Bastian was looking for her as well. I didn't want to give her away, lead him to her. So I watched her grow up through my orb, keeping an eye on her. Orb? I questioned. Like a crystal ball. Clara explained. Ah. Still, you could have taken her with you. You could have searched for Rose together. I snapped. You all think I'm strong, but Bastian is stronger. She was protected, invisible from him. The minute I took her back, he would have known and he would have come for her. Do you have any idea what happens to us when we dally with the dark arts? What happens when we give ourselves over to it? You lose your soul. Luke said. His research into different species was paying off. Gideon gave a hard nod. Right. My brother has no soul. No conscience, no sense of right or wrong. He has magic I could only dream about. I cannot defeat him, and because I am a rogue, I have no help from the clans or the elders. I wanted to yell at him, accuse him, but I couldn't. He was caught in an impossible situation, with no way out. I wanted to hate him for leaving my mate at the hands of Snow Moon, but I understood why he did, and why he never went back. Whereas before I saw my enemy, now I saw a broken, hopeless man who only wanted his family back after years of suffering. I couldn't help but feel sorry for him. Lily was going to eat me alive for this. We will help you find Rose, I stated. Gideon's head snapped up, eyes meeting mine. I didn't come here to ask you for your help. Then why did you? Clint asked. You just said Bastion would know if you were with Lily. Yet, you came here willingly. What's the deal? Lily has a strong mate and a pack who loves her now. She is far more protected here than she was at Snow Moon, or even by herself with me. I can be with her now, as long as she has you. He looked at me. She's been here for months, and he hasn't tried to take her. He sounded like it should have already happened, which concerned me a lot. I think you're forgetting what happens to us when we use dark magic for so long. Clara scoffed. Isn't it obvious? He's weakened. How so? Clint asked. According to you. She gestured to Gideon, he's been using dark magic for over a decade. He gave up his soul a long time ago. Losing your soul takes a huge toll on you. Our souls are our essence, our bodies only the shells that carry them. Bastion will literally wither away into nothing sooner or later. I didn't know that. Gideon gulped. Clara gaped at him. How are you more powerful than me? Then why don't we just wait it out? Wait until he dies. Ben suggested. We can't. I said. If he's weak, then he'll be more desperate. Gideon nodded. He's already started his attack. What do you mean? Killian demanded. I took James for what he did to Lily. And yes, I killed him. I meant to grab Janine too, but... The blood drained from my face. Bastion got her first. I stated. Yes. And based on what I saw from her time here, I have no doubt she will help him destroy Blood Moon. Lilith's POV. I ran, and I didn't stop until I was in my room. I raced to the bathroom, crouching over the toilet and becoming violently sick. My tears never ceased, the sobs breaking from my chest making it a painful experience. Eventually, I had nothing left to bring up. Exhausted and overwhelmed, I sat back, screaming into the empty space. I was dizzy, lightheaded. My body swayed, slumping to the floor. A pair of hands caught me before my head hit the floor. Hazel. I'm here, Lily. Come on, let's get you to bed. I let her help me stand, wrapping my arm around her shoulders. I felt so weak, so tired. And, super strangely, hungry. How could I even think of being hungry right now? Hazel. Yes. I'm hungry. I said sheepishly. I will make you something. Lay down. She arranged the pillows for me, covering me with the blanket. I grabbed Dimitri's pillow, bringing it to my nose and inhaling his scent. It did wonders at calming my nerves. Hazel came back with a bowl of Greta's chicken noodle soup. She handed it to me and I eagerly dove in. Hazel sat beside me and raised her eyebrows. I finished the soup in no time, placing the bowl and spoon on the bedside table. You were hungry, weren't you? I nodded. It's weird. Probably a symptom of the stress. She patted my hand. How are you feeling now? I don't know, Hazel. I blew out a breath. Angry. Betrayed. Heartbroken, to name a few. I understand. We sat in silence for a while, lost in our own thoughts. I'm pregnant, she suddenly announced. My eyes widened and I pulled her in for a huge hug. Really? Oh my gosh! Congratulations, Hazel! Thanks, Lily. She returned my smile. Her eyes clouded over, letting me know someone was mind-linking her. When her eyes cleared, she grasped my hand. You'll want to mind-link Dimitri. Her tone was soft, but commanding. I did what she asked without questioning her. Dimitri. Lily. Are you okay? No. I'll come find you soon, darling. But you need to hear this. He told me everything that had been discussed since I left. I swore at least a dozen times, and when he finished, I swore again. So I have a crazy grandfather who hated my parents, and an even crazier uncle who wants to use me? Probably kill me. I'm sorry, Lily. And he's working with Janine. Wonderful. We'll come up with a plan. Nobody is going to hurt you. Come up soon. I need some serious cuddles. Whatever you want, darling. I love you. I love you too. I cut off the mind link, seeing Hazel's eyes clear as well. Her expression said Clint had also filled her in on what we'd missed. Goddess, Janine is just digging her own grave. Hazel mused. I'd rather dig it for her. And put her in it. I snarled. Hazel pursed her lips in agreement. The good news is that your mom is still alive. That's a miracle, you must be happy about that. I was. Truthfully, that information spread warmth throughout me. I had a mother who loved me. I would do anything to get her back, to bring her home. I need to come up with a plan, to get her back. I told Hazel. You? Don't you mean we? I don't need Gideon's help. Hazel sighed. Lily, he did it to protect you. You heard what Dimitri said. Bastian would have found you already if Gideon had taken you away. It wasn't an ideal situation, but I believe he made the right choice. My jaw dropped. You can't be serious. Hazel, the man abandoned me with no memories. He watched me become a human punching bag for an entire pack. I seethed. I know it's hard to understand. And I know I'm not a mom yet, but even now, everything in me is telling me to protect my pup. If I was faced with a choice like Gideon's, I would leave my child too, if it mean they'd be safe. Then you're as bad a parent as he is. The words left me mouth before I could stop them. Instantly, my hand went over my mouth as Hazel's face crumpled in hurt. What was wrong with me? My friend stood, making her way to the door. Hazel, wait. I didn't mean I'll come see you later, when you're in a better mood. And she left. My head fell into my hands. I was horrible. Was there anything worse I could have said? I wouldn't be surprised if Hazel never talked to me again. I wouldn't if I was her. Tears fell from my eyes, catching in my palms. I felt ridiculously sad. Not just remorseful, though I was. I cried for half an hour on the bed, until my stomach grumbled. Sniffling, I made my way to the kitchen where I grabbed a package of bacon from the fridge. Throwing into a pan, I turned it on high, letting the juicy meat get crispy. I cooked the whole package and grabbed another. Setting my heaping pile on a plate, I brought it back to the bed and snuggled under the covers. Munching on my odd snack, I put on a movie Dimitri and I had already watched. My thoughts wandered in circles as the characters' own dramas played on the screen. Was I supposed to forgive Gideon? Just like that? Nobody here knew the extent of what I'd endured at Snow Moon, nobody knew how many times I'd contemplated ending my own life. Okay, so that was my doing, I never talked to anybody about it. Not even my mate. But the difference was that Gideon had seen it all and never stepped in. He killed James because of what he did, but what about the rest? What about everyone else who'd hurt me? How was that right? Part of me wanted to believe that if my mother hadn't been kidnapped, she would never have agreed to what he did. Mate or not, she would have protected me, wouldn't she? The memory of my birth played in my head. Gideon holding me for the first time, love and happiness shining on his face. With that image came a string of guilt. I didn't want to believe Hazel, didn't want to see it from his point of view. That would make what he did okay, and it wasn't okay. At some point, I fell asleep, completely drained. I woke up to the sparks of my mate holding me close. "Did I wake you?" he whispered. "No. I have to pee." He let me go, allowing me to slide off the bed and go do my business. I washed my hands, noticing my plate on the table. I'd only eaten half the bacon I'd made. Hopping back into bed, I picked up the plate and resumed finishing it. Dmitri reached for a piece, pulling his hand back when I slapped it. "Don't you dare!" He shrugged. "I already had 3 anyways." I scowled at him. "What time is it?" "Almost dinner." "You slept most of the afternoon." I didn't know what to say to that, so I said nothing. "How are you feeling?" "Fine. Lily." "Okay, I'm confused and angry and honestly, I'm still tired. And I'm angry. I just want things to go back to normal. No, I want things to be normal. I want to not be some mythic legendary wolf with all these problems. I just want to live my life with you, happily." "Is that too much to ask?" "I get what you're saying, but life isn't always that easy, Lily. Everyone has challenges, some more than others. I too wish you didn't have to go through all this, but it is what it is. All we can do now is be prepared. Like we were prepared the first time." I scoffed. "We have foresight this time around. And we know what our enemy is after. That makes everything a little easier." He brushed my hair behind my ear. I caught his hand, the sparks setting off a different kind of hunger in me. Dmitri registered my mood a second before my lips were on his, my hands tugging open his shirt. To my surprise, and disappointment, he pulled away. "What's wrong?" I asked. "I asked Greta to bring us dinner tonight so you didn't have to cook. I'd feel pretty awful if I scarred the poor woman this way." I was seriously thinking about mind-linking Greta to hold off with our food until a knock sounded at the door. "Come in." Dmitri called and I reluctantly climbed off him. "Hello dears. I hope you're hungry." Greta wheeled in a trolley loaded with food. "It looks amazing, Greta, thank you so much." Dmitri gave her a side hug. "Anything for my favorite Alpha and Luna. Enjoy, loves." She left with a cheeky grin. We ate until we couldn't anymore, settling back against the pillows. Dmitri rested his hands behind his head, closing his eyes. "That woman can make anything out of potatoes, I swear." He sighed happily. "It was delicious." I agreed. "Speaking of things that are delicious, are you still in the mood?" I silenced him with a heated kiss, pulling him to me. He grinned against my lips, his hands coming up to remove my shirt. Together, we worked off any possible calories from our dinner until well after midnight.